Welcome to the Deep Dive. Tonight, we're stepping into shadows. We're looking at narratives that twist the familiar into something really quite unsettling.
Absolutely.
You sent us some chilling accounts, actually, straight from the digital whispers of 2chan, the infamous Japanese anonymous image board. It's known for spawning urban legends and, well, some disturbing real-life experiences.
And we're ready to delve into them.
Yeah, we're going to unravel them. Our journey today will immerse you in these disturbing stories. They really reveal the darker corners of human experience, fear, and the profound consequences of extreme situations.
These aren't easy stories to hear.
No, definitely not. But for those of you who appreciate the depths of horror and true crime, listen closely. We'll narrate these events with the gravity they deserve. So no laughter, no overly dramatic reactions, just the stark reality of what happened.
A respectful approach is crucial here.
Okay, let's begin with our first story. It starts somewhere that seems, well, completely tranquil at first glance. Picture this. A bustling cafe in an affluent district. You've got relaxing jazz music playing. It's popular with students, housewives. It was November. And there's a trio of young girls just finished their midterms.
Typical scene, really.
Exactly. They're deep in conversation, complaining about results. You know how it is. And then they start talking about their futures. Chugaku, Koho, lower and upper secondary schools. Big deal in Japan, impacts university chances.
Huge pressure, even at that age.
Yeah. So the two less academic girls start teasing their smarter friend. They're saying the best high school, the one she's likely headed for, is, quote, haunted.
Ah, the rumor mill.
Right. The story was that a student committed suicide there, and then other horrible deaths followed. Witnesses supposedly saw the dead student at the scenes.
And that ties into broader cultural beliefs in Japan, doesn't it?
It does. Places where suicides happen are often considered haunted. It can even affect property value. Apartments might be cheaper.
It's fascinating how folklore just weaves itself into daily life like that. It affects school reputation, even real estate, like you said. That cultural weight on tragic events, the idea of a place being tainted, it's very real there.
Absolutely. But then things take a turn. The cafe's humming along, and this woman in a striking red dress sitting opposite. She suddenly gets up, leaves her book, walks over to the girls,
Interrupts them.
loudly, scratches her long dark hair, kind of grunts. The whole cafe pauses. Then she says, "I am sick and tired of all of these lies about my old school being haunted."
Wow. Quite an entrance.
Yeah. She continues, "If you three would be so kind as to stop spreading such idiotic rumors, I'd be more than happy to tell you what actually happened there."
So she knows the real story, or a real story.
Well, the story she told wasn't about her, but about a girl she knew there, named Akatsuki. So now we're going to tell you Akatsuki's story from her point of view.
Okay.
Akatsuki had an older twin sister. Now, people always ask twins about that deep connection, feeling each other's pain, getting mixed up by parents.
The usual assumptions.
But for them, totally different. Akatsuki said they were like thin air to each other. Never argued, never talked, never interfered, like strangers.
That's unusual and probably quite isolating in its own way.
Akatsuki explained her sister was always just slightly better. Academics, sports, everything. Even tiny differences felt huge. She said her asshole parents constantly called her the less able one, sometimes even the simpleton.
Oof. That's harsh.
Yeah, like learning to ride a bike 20 minutes after her sister, getting 95 on a math test when her sister got 98. Small things, but they built up this feeling of being second best.
That constant comparison can be incredibly damaging.
Despite all that, both were top students. So naturally, they ended up at the best high school in the district.
This sets up such a complex dynamic from the start. It's not just typical sibling rivalry. It sounds like what psychologists sometimes call split parental ego projection. One kid is the ideal, the other is the flawed reflection. And that constant, subtle putting down, it just eats away at your self-worth. It really primes you for, well, extreme reactions when things get tough later on, creates a very distorted view of yourself and others.
And here's where things get really unsettling. After the first semester, everything changed. The bullying started. Akatsuki describes the bullies as smart. They knew how to avoid getting caught, partly because they had excellent grades. They'd take her to, hidden spots.
Inconspicuous locations, yeah.
And physically abuse her.
Yeah.
Punching, kicking, hitting, but always careful. No visible bruises on her face or arms.
Calculated.
There were 5 of them. The leader was a girl with chestnut-colored hair who just point, laugh, give orders. But the most chilling part,
What was that?
Akatsuki's own twin sister, she was part of the group, just watching.
Watching the abuse.
Yeah. Coldly, without a flicker of emotion. Akatsuki said it didn't make sense because her sister supposedly hated girls like the bullies.
That is deeply disturbing.
And her new friends, the ones she'd only known for 3 months, they just vanished. Afraid they'd be next. Akatsuki was completely alone.
That presence of the twin, watching so detachedly, it elevates the bullying beyond physical pain. It becomes this deep psychological torment. It's not just indifference, it feels like a deliberate, weaponized passivity, almost a quiet sadism.
Like making it worse just by being there.
Exactly. It massively compounds the isolation, makes her question everything, family, safety, it shatters her world.
So the sister's inaction is basically active participation, amplifying the trauma.
Precisely. It turns a terrible situation into this profound betrayal. She's not just a witness, she's complicit, an agent in Akatsuki's torment.
So the violence went on for months. It got worse, more creative, more humiliating. Akatsuki talked about how the worst days were when the chestnut-haired leader was in a bad mood.
Oh no.
Sometimes they stripped naked and thrown into a pond and dragged her up by her hair for more abuse. And all the while, her sister just watched. Same blank expression. Akatsuki felt trapped. Couldn't tell her parents. They obviously favored the sister. Couldn't tell teachers the bullies were seen as perfect students, and telling might just make it worse.
A classic double bind.
Yeah.
Nowhere to turn.
And seeing her sister seemingly happy tennis club, part-time job, friends, just fueled Akatsuki's hatred. It grew stronger than her hate for the actual bullies.
Understandable, given the betrayal.
The bullying reached a terrifying point. One time, they held her head underwater. She nearly drowned. She was too injured, too tired to fight back anymore. She was just done.
Breaking point.
Yeah. She decided there was only one way out. Started planning her suicide. Wrote a short note, just 4 words. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry.
Oh, Akatsuki.
Then came this cold winter night. Full moon. She broke into the school after hours, went up to the rooftop. She had asked her sister to meet her there, but didn't really expect her to show up.
But she did.
She was there, leaning on the rails, back turned to Akatsuki. Akatsuki said it was the closest they'd been to a real conversation in years. Her sister spoke. Akatsuki stepped closer. Without hesitating, Akatsuki just threw herself at her sister, caught her totally off guard, sent her flying over the railing, down and out of sight.
Oh my God.
The sister's death ruled a suicide. The note Akatsuki planted, her sister's quiet personality, nobody suspected anything else. Akatsuki hoped the bullying would finally stop.
But it didn't, did it? I sense there's more.
Weeks later, she's back at school. The chestnut-haired bully comes up to her, asks if she's all right, and then weirdly asks about a part-time job.
Part-time job? What?
That's when the truth came out. Horrifying truth. The bullies, they had originally targeted Akatsuki's sister.
What?
The sister had agreed to pay us off to leave her alone. And part of the deal was they had to find a new victim instead. Akatsuki. And now the bully was demanding Akatsuki continue the payments.
That is devastating. The ultimate betrayal.
Akatsuki had this terrifying realization. Her sister's pain must have been even worse than hers. Maybe leaning on those rails, back turned. Maybe it was a silent plea, asking for help. Or maybe even asking for this.
The implications are staggering.
In that moment, hearing the truth, Akatsuki just blanked out. Next thing she knew, she was being dragged into a police car, absolutely covered in blood. The account mentions, chillingly, the damage you can do to somebody with just one pen.
This is a truly tragic cycle of pain and betrayal. It really highlights something called moral injury. Akatsuki, initially the victim, driven by desperation. She becomes a perpetrator herself when she learns the full extent of her sister's suffering and, well, complicity.
It completely flips the script.
Blurs all the lines. Victim, perpetrator, morality, extreme pressure just shatters everything. It can drive people to acts they'd never imagine. And that friend's final comment, wouldn't you have done the same? That hints at the devastating impact of this moral injury feeling you violated your own core values just to survive.
And the woman in red, Akatsuki's friend, who heard the whole story later in the psych ward, she concluded that bullying reports are now taken extremely seriously at that school. But her final thought, if you ask me what Akatsuki did was perfectly natural, given what happened at least. I mean, wouldn't you have done the same in her shoes? What a profoundly unsettling question. When you hear that final thought, what psychological phenomena jump out?
It really pushes against the boundary of human resilience, doesn't it? Her friend is essentially suggesting a breaking point exists, where self-preservation, mixed with that level of betrayal and psychological agony, can push someone beyond what they or we think is possible. It's a stark reminder that extreme circumstances can really warp our fundamental moral compass.
Okay, let's shift gears. Our next story presents a different kind of terror. It blends that visceral shock of tragedy with something, well, supernatural.
Right.
Our narrator here had this commute home from work. Every day they'd cycle past this creepy abandoned apartment complex, empty for years, going to be demolished.
Sounds like the start of many horror stories.
Totally. And it was known locally as a hot spot for people who wanted to commit suicide. So naturally, especially in Japan with those strong beliefs about spirits, it was also rumored to be haunted.
Makes sense. These places become focal points for fear.
The area was really isolated too. No shops, no streetlights nearby, just dark and terrifying to cycle past, especially at night.
It's quite striking how cultural beliefs about places linked to death can amplify that existing dread. In Japan, the idea of yurei, lingering spirits, particularly from tragic or violent deaths, is deeply embedded. So an abandoned building with a history like that, it becomes a sort of nexus for these beliefs, almost a physical manifestation of collective fear, ripe for scary stories and maybe psychological projection.
Definitely. So one night in mid-December, snow's falling thick, it's freezing cold, the narrator is pedaling home in total darkness.
Okay.
As they get near the abandoned apartment, they stop. There's a single light shining from the very top floor.
Oh, just one light.
Yeah. Their first thought, a ghost, the soul of someone who died here. But, taking a detour would add like an hour to their freezing ride home.
Not appealing.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So they decide to just cycle slowly towards it, keeping an eye out. As they get closer, they feel this wave of relief. The light is clearly a torch or a lamp, maybe a phone light, not supernatural.
Yeah. Okay.
But just as they're about to cycle past the building, a bone-chilling scream erupts. A woman's voice. It goes on and on until a resounding thud, like something had slammed onto the pavement.
Oh, no.
A gust of cold air hits them, the terrible realization. A woman had just jumped, thrown herself off the building.
That shift from relief to sheer horror in seconds. It's psychologically jarring. The scream, the thud, it paints such a vivid, awful picture. Witnessing that would leave a permanent mark. That kind of sudden, extreme trauma. It triggers profound stress responses, messing with perception, memory.
For a second, the narrator was just frozen. Then adrenaline kicks in. They rush to the foot of the building. And amazingly, the girl is alive.
Alive. After falling from that height.
Alive. Gasping for breath and shaking in agony. Her limbs were horribly shattered and contorted. Dark liquid seeping from her mouth. But the blood-stained snow had somehow, miraculously cushioned her landing.
Incredible. Preventing instant death.
Yeah. She hadn't died instantly like she'd intended. The narrator immediately called for help, tried to comfort her, saying everything's going to be okay, just so she wouldn't feel alone if she did pass.
Compassionate response in a horrifying moment.
The ambulance arrives quickly, lights flashing everywhere, and the girl, despite everything, managed to survive this whole ordeal.
Yeah.
Unlike everyone else who had jumped from there before.
Remarkable.
Now, this was obviously the scariest moment of the narrator's life. But not just because of the girl or the fall.
There's more.
As they were kneeling beside her, freezing in the snow, they realized the girl wasn't looking up at them. She was just past me up at the apartment building.
Okay.
And then, the truly unsettling part, several of the apartment's lights were now on. And in the windows were people staring down at us.
What? The building was supposed to be empty.
Dark and empty. But now it seemed filled with light, sound, and movement. And just before the ambulance took the girl away, both the narrator and the girl saw them clearly.
Saw who?
Bloody, emaciated faces inviting her in.
Chilling. Wow.
The building's gone now, demolished. But the narrator, they still take a different route home. Forever changed.
This is where that cultural context becomes vital again, alongside the huge psychological impact of the trauma. The narrator, already primed by the building's reputation and the shock of the event, experiences what might be a shared hallucination. Or maybe a manifestation of the collective despair tied to that place.
Like the building itself is projecting something.
Possibly. The image of bloody, emaciated faces inviting her in. It suggests the site itself, maybe because of all the intense suffering it absorbed, created some kind of psychic or visual feedback loop. It's a powerful mix. The witness's psychological stress and those deep-seated cultural beliefs about places marked by tragedy.
Okay, our final story. This one takes us into the seemingly innocent world of primary school. But don't let that fool you.
Innocence can be deceptive.
This narrative explores the chilling side of betrayal and false accusation. Our narrator is a transfer student, 4th year of primary school, just moved from Tokyo to a remote school near Sai for his dad's job.
Tough transition.
Yeah, he struggled at first. The accent, the local culture, felt like a foreigner. But after about 3 months, he started settling in, made a small group of friends.
That's good.
There was Kana, jolly and outgoing, Jin, the class leader, really helpful, Masahiro, popular, sporty, Saburo, quiet, mysterious type, Tori, shy girl with pigtails, parents owned a restaurant, and then sweet Ayame.
Crush.
Totally fell for her instantly. She offered him a desk, took his hand, made him feel welcome.
It's important to remember how that initial vulnerability, followed by finding acceptance, would make what happens next even more devastating. He found a place, friends, even that first crush. It creates the perfect setup for deep emotional wounds when trust gets betrayed. That sense of belonging is key to understanding the shock later.
Right, so it's getting close to the Christmas holidays, everyone's excited. Then this truly messed up prank happens. Someone emptied the class fish bowl, took the goldfish out, and basically experimented with freezing them in the snow outside.
Oh, that's awful. Cruel.
Mr. Preto, their teacher, found them. Poor things, frozen and dead, right outside the school entrance. He was visibly angry. He'd put a lot of effort into looking after those fish.
Understandably upset.
It was obvious the culprit was from their class. They were the only ones in the sports hall the night before, and the fish were fine when the teacher left. So Mr. Preto demands a confession.
High stakes in that system.
Huge. He emphasizes the consequences in the Japanese schooling system. It's not just detention, a permanent black mark. Ruins your chances for good secondary schools, universities, jobs, the whole future, potentially.
Wow. No wonder they were scared.
The classroom atmosphere just dropped. As glum as that of a funeral. Complete silence. Nobody said a word.
This really shows the immense pressure cooker of the Japanese education system. A single mistake, even a childish prank gone wrong, can have lifelong effects. That explains the silence, the fear. It creates this environment where self-preservation can just overwhelm everything else, even for kids.
The silence just seemed to make the teacher angrier. He orders everyone, close your eyes. Then he gives instructions, raise your hand if you know who did it. Or the culprit can confess anonymously. Or point to who did it.
Point anonymously.
Yeah. While everyone's eyes are supposedly closed, he says, no one's leaving this classroom until I find out who's responsible. The pressure is immense. The narrator can't take it. He opened my eyes thinly just to peek.
And what did he see?
It was horrifying. Silly and jolly Kana, the class leader Jin, Masahiro, Saburo, Tori, and Ayami Sweet Ayame.
His friends, Ayami too.
All of them. Plus quite a few other class members I didn't even know. All standing there, completely silent like statues in unison, every single one of them, pointing at me.
Unanimous.
All pointing at him. He just gulped. And then he heard it. The sound of his teacher's footsteps on the wooden floor, walking slowly towards him.
That's not just kids being mean, it's a terrifying example of groupthink and the bystander effect under extreme pressure. The individual moral compass just gets shut down by what seems like the group consensus, especially when there's an easy out like pointing blame anonymously.
They all just save themselves.
It's this collective deflection of responsibility. It creates this powerful, almost unstoppable force against one person. It's a chilling display of social contagion, how quickly a group mentality forms under duress, making people act against their own conscience. The fear of being the next one accused becomes a huge motivator to shift blame, even onto someone innocent.
And the thought of all those hands, his friends Ayame, pointing silently together. It's almost impossible to grasp, isn't it?
It really is. And that's often where the deepest psychological wounds come from. Not just the direct accusation, but the feeling of total abandonment and betrayal by those you trust, those who should stand by you. It's a wound to the soul, especially for a child just trying to belong.
These stories, they really highlight how intense the human experience can be, especially in its darker moments. We've seen Akatsuki's psychological torment and ultimate revenge.
Yes, the cycle of pain there was profound.
Then the visceral shock of the abandoned apartment. Tragedy mixed with that chilling supernatural element.
A blend of trauma and cultural fear.
And finally, this gut-wrenching betrayal in the goldfish prank. False accusation by the group.
The pressure of conformity.
These tales remind us, I think, that the worst horrors often aren't from monsters or ghosts, but they live right here, in the unexpected corners of human experience. and the shadows we cast on each other.
Well said.
It makes you wonder, what hidden truths are lurking just beneath the surface? And how far would you, or any of us, go when pushed right to the absolute limit?
A question worth pondering.
Well, thank you for joining us on this pretty unsettling journey today. If these tales send a shiver down your spine, please do like this deep dive. Maybe share it with your friends who appreciate this sort of thing.
And subscribe.
And definitely subscribe to our channel, Docx, for more chilling stories like these. See you next time.